supposedly seduced my insecure ex's brother by cooking dinner and letting him crash at my place, causing family chaos and drama. I, 27F, was in a rather bad relationship about 4 to 5 years back. It was a textbook toxic relationship, and there are very few things in life that I regret as much as I regret staying in it for a year and a half, which was a year and a half too much. Just to give some context, this person, let's call him Chad, was a year older than me. We met in college, became friends, and eventually grew closer after we both graduated. Anyway, the initial courtship period was a dream, which I now realize was severe love bombing. It's like he worshipped the ground I walked on. He showered me with compliments, small thoughtful gifts, handwritten letters, the works. I was smitten. However, one point of contention since day one was his insecurity, how he didn't believe he got someone like me, or how people apparently looked at us weirdly, because they couldn't believe he landed me. 5 months into the relationship, things took a permanent turn for the worse. His insecurity was through the roof. I wasn't allowed to have any guy friends, there was constant negging, regarding my body, clothes, taste in music, the way I spoke, everything. Also, I realized he had an alcohol problem and constantly micro-cheated. Engaging with his exes over late-night video calls, flirting with anyone and everyone under the pretext of friendship. He was my first, so I was extremely attached and couldn't leave until he finally cheated on me with someone he apparently saw a little sister and grew up with. I can't believe I lost my self-esteem and peace over a guy built like a wet cigarette, but I digress. I had made post about him earlier on this sub as well. Now coming to his older brother, let's call him Dan. Dan had always been polite with me, acknowledging me with max a nod or a smile or a hello. However, Chad was really uncomfortable with these interactions because A, Dan was VVVVV private and had never spoken to any of his other girlfriends. B, Dan had told him on a few occasions that I was too good for him and he shouldn't screw up. Okay, now coming to the main issue of how I apparently seduced Dan. 7 months ago I moved to a different city for work. I live alone in a 2-bedroom and my house is the go-to hangout spot for the few friends I've made here. Not like a party spot, but like a glass of wine, good food, safe space kind of a spot. I love cooking and hosting people, and my friends definitely reap the benefits. I'm the mom friend. Anyway, about 4 months back, one of my friends was supposed to come over and she asked to bring a friend who'd recently gone through a breakup. I didn't mind. When they showed up, I realized that this friend was Dan. We were both surprised and visibly uncomfortable. A few moments after settling down, he randomly blurted out that he knows his brother did me dirty and he'd understand if I wanted him to leave. This statement actually helped cut the tension in the room and I was okay with him being over. After all, he had always been nice to me, and I had a really good relationship with my ex's family, so I didn't ask him to leave. The three of us got drunk, consoled Dan and talked the night away. This started becoming a frequent affair, not the drinking though, with him coming over at least 2 to 3 times a week. At times Dan would stay even after the other friend left. Usually for dinner, because he missed home-cooked food. I didn't mind. Now, the friend who'd come over with him went out of town last month and this is when I think I should have acted differently. Dan started showing up alone for these weekly dinners now. He'd come way early and try and help me cook and stay really late, usually not even getting up to leave until I dropped several hints. On the last of these occasions, he shows up with my favorite wine and food, as a sort of thank you for being such a good friend, despite everything. We eat, we drink, we talk and drink some more and it's pretty late. When Dan tells me he drove to my place that day, he usually avails cabs, and that he's too drunk to drive back, so if I could let him crash at mine. I hesitantly agreed, given I had a spare room and also there wasn't any other reasonable option tbh. This is when things started getting worse I think. He started talking about what he thought of me when he first met me and presenting rather detailed observations about me from the time I dated his brother, and loads of other stuff, some compliments, some vulnerable statements, so very awkward jokes etc. After a little while he tried to kiss me, not like leaning in to kiss me, but more like it suddenly occurred to him he should do it, so he just grabbed my face and tried to kiss me. I pushed him away and went numb for a minute and then slowly went to my room and locked my door. I couldn't think and felt extremely hollow. I lay in bed awake for the remaining night. The next morning he was gone before I woke up. 3 days after the incident I get a call from an unknown number and pick up to realize it's my ex. He's wailing hysterically and screaming over the phone, calling me a wh for seducing his brother and that I ruined his family and his relationship with his brother and that I did a hideous thing for revenge which is way worse than what he did to me. There was a lot of name calling, accusations. Because his brother isn't talking to him and his dad refused to get involved. So he feels completely abandoned. I didn't say a word and hung up, shaking. Turns out Dan had left that very night and called Chad cussing him out for ruining his chances with me, telling him he always had a thing for me and knew Chad didn't deserve me. Update 1. This past month has been nothing short of a fever dream and this post is going to be long. So, let's begin. Ever since the night of the incident and the phone call from the ex, things had been fairly normal. I blocked the entire family, and as mentioned earlier decided to meet the common friend to tell her of the entire scenario. We met and I narrated everything that went down during the couple of weeks when she wasn't here. Here's what she had to say. Apparently Dan had spoken to her about me, asking her if she sensed a spark between us and going as far as telling her that he always felt I had a thing for him when I dated his brother. I was dumbfounded to say the least. Anyway, she apparently asked him to not imagine stuff and be normal and process his breakup. NGL, I was kinda pissed at her for not telling me and also being rather lackadaisical about the whole situation even after I told her what went down. She just asked me to get over it and not engage. Literally, just that much. I have decided to keep my distance for now. Now, from mid-April is when things really start snowballing. So, I live in a rented condo, in a gated apartment building. While I don't have the authority to install cameras or change the locks, I did add some extra lock and informed building security to not let Dan in anymore, or if anyone comes to visit me, to give me a call before letting them up. I thought that'd be it, but gosh, was I wrong. At around 2 a.m. on the 12th of this month, I wake up to my phone buzzing incessantly, being bombarded with calls and messages. There are over 100 calls from an unknown no. And some 5 to 6 calls from the building security. I call them back and can clearly hear a ruckus in the background. They ask me to come down immediately. Once down, what do I see? Dan is drunk out of his mind, screaming and hurling expletives, asking to be let up. I was terrified and stumped tbh. Once Dan notices me, he literally lunges towards me, repeatedly saying he wants to talk. By this time more people have gathered, additional security has been called and they try to drag Dan away when he punches one of the guards. He's then literally thrown outside. I apologize to everyone, especially the guard, and offer to pay for his injury, just trying to defuse the situation, in some sort of a daze. It wasn't until I got into the elevator that I broke down. It was a mix of anger, fear and helplessness, and I was genuinely scared, because Dan is a big guy and if I were to face him alone, I wouldn't be able to fight him off physically. But as they say, bad luck comes in threes and there was more. The next morning I get a call from my landlord asking me to leave my apartment within the next 2 weeks. I was devastated. This was my space, a home I'd made for myself, and now I was being kicked out for no fault of mine. I explained the situation and while he sympathized, he said the actual residents of the building don't want someone who attracts violence and drama and has questionable character. OFC, after an extremely shitty last night and morning, I managed to drag myself to work somehow and push through the day. I just wanted to get home, stay in bed and cry. So, I chose to leave early and go home. You know how you can sense if someone's following you or watching you? I felt that while walking from my office to the subway, and just as I was about to enter the station, someone grabs my hand and pulls me aside. It's Dan and I kind of freeze. He again keeps muttering that he wants to talk. He's very clearly on something and looks kind of manic. His grip is extremely tight and he's going on about how his family isn't talking to him and I'm the only person he can count on. At this point there are a few things running through my mind. This particular entry gate is a deserted one, it's the closest to my office, but it's the least used gate, surrounded by trees and kinda nothing. It's late afternoon and the few shops around this gate is closed, because siesta/summer nap time. I just need to somehow escape and then head straight to the cops. Dan noticed me zoning out and made some innuendo-laden comment and touched my face. I think something snapped in me then and I screamed bloody murder. I screamed, think angry monkey, and stomped on his foot and ran down the stairs to the subway station and got onto the train that just came in. It went in the opposite direction of my home, but I didn't care. I called a couple of friends who knew about the situation and asked them to accompany me to the police station. The police station, ha. I narrate the incident, show the bruise on my wrist and tell them everything.
Things they chose to hear/see, ex's brother, a woman let him into my home multiple times, alcohol involved, he didn't technically hurt me, I live alone, I have tattoos, this guy was my friend.
So, I should probably try and amicably sort things out. Since there was no bloodshed or harassment that led to anything, they won't lodge an official complaint or arrest him, but they can make a general complaint and look into it if things escalate. I am literally holding in my tears at this point. I call Dan's father, tell him about his son, tell him I've lodged a complaint against his son. This man dodges all responsibility, tells me, we are all adults and are allowed to do what feels right. I swear I could shoot this family. So, I've lost my home, this man is lurking around harassing me, making my workplace unsafe too. The cops aren't doing shit, his family isn't doing shit, I don't want to bother mine. All I have is the copy of a general complaint. I felt helpless, but I had to do something. I looked up Dan's manager, who I knew hated him, HR and department head at his workplace, and sent them a scathing email, attaching the copy of the complaint. A few of my close friends started commenting on the company's LinkedIn posts and took to Google reviews about the company hiring predators. A couple of my guy friends shared the same information with his landlord, who happens to have a daughter. And lastly, I told the super gossipy, scheming aunt and their family, connected on Facebook, what happened, with some added spice. The fact that his holier-than-thou dad is the crux of family gossip over his son's activities is definitely not doing him any good. Last I know, Dan has been fired, asked to leave his apartment. Dan is terrible with money and has very questionable work ethic, and as a result of everything has been forced to leave the city and go back home. I have changed my personal phone number, gotten a new place and will move soon. Update 2. So, after all was said and done, Dan blacklisted, booted from both job and apartment, and apparently forced to crawl back to his hometown. I honestly expected the drama to die down. I wanted peace, new house, new number, a hermit arc if you will. For 2 weeks, things were, well, suspiciously quiet except for a few strange looks from neighbors and colleagues. That is, until a few things happened, and let's just say, I had to break my no family involvement rule. First, I got a DM from Chad's dad. Not a phone call or a letter, impossible after the number change and address change, but a DM. On LinkedIn. If that doesn't tell you how nuts these people are, nothing will. The message was some weird mixture of formal apology and I hope this doesn't affect your professional prospects, let's all be mature. I'd have ignored it, but a few days later, my management pulled me into a meeting. Apparently Chad had also sent an email to my company, ceasing HR, where he called me destructive, a serial homewrecker, and implying, not so subtly, that I was a liability to company reputation. The company, thank God, had my back, but the audacity left me so annoyed I almost laughed. Meanwhile, Dan, from his parents' house, I guess, resurrected his Facebook just to post what I can only describe as a novella-length, unhinged status update subtweeting about two-faced women led by modern filth. There were screenshots of old pictures of me with his family, didn't tag me, but come on, and wild insinuations about how women weaponize trauma. I shouldn't have read it, but let's not kid ourselves, I did, sent it to a couple of friends, we played dramatic reading, wine in hand. But then, things took another turn. Someone, definitely not me, posted the police complaint screenshot under his status, with a note like always two sides to the story, bro. Next thing you know, his status is set to friends only, then deleted, then his account is gone. I did not contact him or his family, but the damage was done. 2 of his cousins DM'd me apologies, and a third one wanted to gossip about which of Chad's exes would get caught up next. Spoiler, she sent me screenshots of Chad's DMs to her from years ago, and yikes. Next, my mom found out. Thanks, extended family grapevine, she booked a train ticket to look after me. At first I was mortified. My mother is dramatic at the calmest of times and, since her last breakup, harbors a deep distrust of all men named after 90s soap actors. But here's the thing, her visit changed absolutely everything. After the first 10 minutes, which were basically a mix of I told you never trust a man whose favorite cologne is Axe body spray and hand-wringing, she got hardcore. She installed extra deadbolts, pepper spray in every purse, and, plot twist, threatened to show up at Chad's parents' house with a cricket bat and a priest if they contacted me again. She also literally bribed our family IT whiz, my cousin, bless him, to help purge my digital footprint. All my social security stuff is on lockdown, and my socials are so locked down now I could probably join the CIA. She made me file, with her guidance, official police escalation documents via a lawyer friend. Sometimes it takes a middle-aged mom with rage to move the needle, she declared, and honestly, she was right. 1 week after my new fortress/home was set and my entire apartment blessed with every evil eye charm my mom could find, I ran into Chad at the supermarket. He looked rough, greasy hair, mustache in a style I can only call villain goatee but make it patchy, and at the sight of me he made a dramatic U-turn and scuttled into the freezer aisle. Whatever. The best part? My new neighbor turned out to be an absolute gem, an older lady who, when I vaguely mentioned ex-boyfriend problems, immediately said, I have 3 sons, I trust none of them, and I have CCTV on both floors. Also, she bakes. Bless her. Now, this next part is unexpected but true. 2 weeks after moving, I received a handwritten envelope in my building mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was from Dan's mother. Without giving all the details, it was, astonishingly, a full apology. She wrote about how she failed to see the signs, how she was ashamed for turning a blind eye to Chad's behavior, and how the family was fractured but she realized no one should suffer for our son's mistakes. She included her mobile number and said, if you need an advocate, I'll stand with you, even if it's only in spirit. Not to get sappy but, I cried. Not because it fixed anything, but it felt like one tiny thread of closure in a giant, unraveling sweater. Dan has not tried to contact me again, and rumor has it, from the Facebook cousin, that his parents are making him go to therapy and AA. He's grounded in every sense of the word. Chad's family is split, his mom is team me and his dad, well, probably wishes it was the 1970s again. My career is unharmed, my personal circle is fortified, and my hermit arc is thriving, except for my mom, who's taken to FaceTiming me to check my locks every night. I signed up for a self-defense class, bought a new couch, and have regular wine/pasta nights with my neighbor and her dog. TLDR, sometimes, setting your whole toxic past on fire does work, but only after you move house, involve everyone's HR department, accept your mom's help, and let the family drama spiral like the season 3 finale of a bad soap opera. I can't say I have 0 regrets, but at least I sleep through the night now. And for the Redditor asking for the playlist that got me through this? PM me, happy to send you my Vindication Jam Spotify link. Update 3, and, because I know Reddit, I'm giving you all the real, messy new stuff. Let's just say, condos are not soundproof and drama has echoes. First wild event, 3 weeks ago, I got an email from the building management. All official wording like disturbance, safety, and then I squinted at the Spanish names and realized, Dan's family had tried to lease a unit in my building. Same goddamn block. Under his mom's maiden name. I actually choked on my coffee and called the manager, half laughing, half hysterical. No, it's a mistake, I explained, I'm not running from a cult, just a generational disaster. The manager, an absolute lad, replied, no worries, we flagged it. When a reference check comes back like that, the system sends us a pop-up that says run. I guess my not-so-silent campaign did its job? I still did a panic round of social media lockdown, again. Shout out to my family IT guy, but wait, there's more. I came home one Friday to find the neighbor's dog barking like the world was ending. Turns out, a mysterious envelope had been dropped under my door, no name, nothing, just a doodle of a sad face with a martini. Inside? A memory stick. You cannot pay me enough to plug that into my computer. So I go full crime podcast protagonist and take it to my neighbor, who's got a clean laptop. She thinks it's hilarious and brings out snacks. On the stick? A video file and a PDF. The video is Dan, looking rough, let's be honest. It's him sitting in some dingy bedroom, reciting a half-hearted apology and some frankly unclear metaphors about undoing knots in the thread of fate. The PDF? Screenshots of his therapy group chat and a signed AA attendance slip. Translation: his family was trying to prove rehabilitation. There was a note on the back of the AA slip: if forgiveness is ever possible, here's proof I'm working on it.
No expectations, D. I will give credit where it's due, he didn't ask to see me, he didn't threaten, just
performative remorse, wrapped up with truly awful facial hair. I didn't reply, obviously. But knowing I'd never be out of his family's rearview mirror? Not great. Still, I let my therapist look at the material, a C+ apology, D for taste, then filed it away with the other artifacts of nonsense. On to Chad. And oh, Chad, turns out, while he was busy sending scathing emails to my company, one of his legendary drunken midnight rants got him booted from his own job. He spilled company secrets in a group chat, rookie move, and a friend of a friend notified HR. I found out through the cousin, the same one who previously sent me screenshots, who gleefully updated me that karma strikes him bald and broke. She is now my favorite cousin by proxy. Of course, Chad posted a truth will come out, always does meme to his Insta stories, then deleted it, then posted a shirtless selfie with the caption what they lost doesn't know it yet. Congratulations to him, I guess? Next, an actual plot twist. Remember the other ex of Chad, the one the cousin gossiped about? She slid into my DMs on pure solidarity. Turns out, Chad had reached out to her apologizing for not being over me. She wanted to warn me that he'd apparently been asking mutuals if there's a way to get my forgiveness. In her words, he is so desperate for your attention he's becoming, like, a lost Reddit Ida post. I reassured her I'd changed every possible lock, both physical and emotional. We grabbed a coffee, compared horror stories, and now we're low-key building a balding Chad Survivors Club. Highly recommend for healing, mean memes and croissants. But the real kicker came last Friday. Security buzzed, "Ma'am, there's someone downstairs to see you, say they're your lawyer?" My heart dropped, but it was, in fact, a suit-wearing woman with a briefcase and the driest sense of humor I've ever encountered. My specialty is domestic privacy disputes and fucking up sloppy men's lives. My mother, it turns out, had hired her as a consultant. She updated my case paperwork, whispered some actually helpful advice on restraining offense escalation, and finally said, "You're now so documented, they'd have to launch a drone into your living room to bother you without legal fallout." And as icing on the cake, my neighbor's son, a literal IT John Wick, installed a doorbell camera. To which my mom stuck a post-it, "Smile. You are on 7 cameras." Okay, but some good came out of all this misery pasta. My mom, after scaring every man in a 5-mile radius, including my mailman, actually started therapy herself for the angry mama bear thing, and so did I. Unironically, our communication has never been better. Generational trauma, we're working on it. The self-defense course is still life-changing. I have biceps now and an inappropriate crush on my instructor. The neighbor and I have a running Friday night bit where we outdo each other with terrible dating app stories and drink Chad's tears, salted margaritas, on the balcony. I finally, got a letter from my landlord apologizing for the way things went down. Plus, he sent me a voucher for a fancy dinner place in the neighborhood. Redemption arc, in real life, so. Where does that leave me? Healing, not hiding. If there's a lesson for all you out there, besides don't date dudes who wear axe and post Instagram poetry, it's this: safe is never boring, and therapy is magic. Sometimes, the only way out is through the police, the HR rep, your mom wielding a cricket bat, and ultimately, a dawning feeling that you get to write your own next chapter. But if a memory stick ever comes your way, absolutely have snacks on hand. Stay tuned, because my neighbor is trying to set me up with her dog trainer, and honestly, I trust her more than any app or algorithm. TLDR, Dan tried to move in next door under an alias, flopped. Family keeps sending apologies/therapy receipts. Chad is his own digital disaster. My mom, a lawyer, and 7 cameras are my current romantic partners. And Friday balcony laughs taste even better with peace. Update 4. So, remember how I said things were finally stabilizing? Of course the universe heard that and cackled. As of this update, I am convinced that my life is less of a soap opera and more like a meta-dark comedy where the plot twists are written by an AI that's just learning human boundaries. Anyway, here we go. First, the new drama, just as I settled into my peace era, leaning fully into what can only be described as fortress chic, 2 locks on every door, pepper spray and evil eye charms, tucked into plant pots, I started getting mail forwarded from my old address. Most of it was boring, except one oversized envelope marked, in unfamiliar handwriting, urgent legal correspondence. Naturally, heart in throat, I open it. What do I find? A printout of a letter, clearly typed by someone with only a loose relationship to spell check, purporting to be from Chad's dad's lawyer, unclear if real, charging me with defamation of character, harassment, and willful manipulation of family harmony. Yes, you read that right, manipulation of family harmony, like that's a sanctionable offense outside telenovelas. Of course, it's all hot air. I called my new lawyer, yep, lawyer on retainer arc continues, and she barely held in her snort laugh. Their only legal standing is in the kangaroo court of overbearing patriarchs, she deadpanned, but I'll file a response for sport. Never heard anything more after that, obviously, but the symbolism? Chef's kiss. Dan update, a twist I was not prepared for, so, Dan's been off my radar for months, which is precisely how I like it. But then, out of nowhere, my neighbor, baker, CCTV enthusiast, human delight, gets a mysterious Uber Eats delivery address to her rather than me, 4 boxes of, no kidding, apology cupcakes, from a friend of a friend, sorry for the trouble last year. She, mildly alarmed but more curious, brings them over to my apartment, and we dissect every box for hidden notes or electronics like suspicious squirrels. On the bottom of the red velvet, we find a folded business-sized card that just says, Dan. Sober 90. As in, 90 days, no contact number, just the number. Look, at this point the man's apology campaigns are either elaborate or sad, or both, but I give him this, at least it wasn't a USB stick full of haiku this time. Still, into the trash they went, sorry, neighbor, I'm not risking my thriving gut bacteria for closure cakes. Meanwhile, I get a group video call request from, wait for it, Chad's cousin plus the ex he cheated on me with plus the other ex who messaged me last time. This is not a configuration I ever expected outside of low-budget reality TV, but curiosity kills the loneliness, so I accept. It turns out, Chad is attempting some kind of redemption tour, reaching out with identical messages about self-improvement, rebuilding bridges, and asking if we forgive him for our sake in his spiritual journey. Y'all, the other exes are hilarious. We ended up swapping stories and laughing so hard my abs were sore. The best one? He'd sent a video of himself burning a fedora as a sacrifice to toxic masculinity. I wish I was joking, but life is stranger than satire. Family fallouts and hilarious karma. Chad's parents are now very much not together. Word, via gossip cousin, naturally, is his dad is living alone in a rented studio, muttering about morality, and his mom is treating herself to yoga, retreats, international phone plan, and apparently journaling about generational healing. Dan's mom sent one final text saying, "Thank you for standing up. I hope your silence and strength inspire others." Honestly, I finally believe her. Surprising subplot. My landlord and the redemption arc. Okay, here's one for the books. My former landlord, whose well-timed eviction was the domino of this whole saga, literally showed up at my new building last week, unannounced. I was admittedly freaked, but he just wanted to formally apologize in person, yes, with witnesses, and hand me not just a dinner voucher, but a standing offer for the next open apartment in the old building, no questions, new lease, and free rent for 3 months if you ever want it. I am not moving again anytime soon. The PTSD from cardboard boxes is real, but still, proof that sometimes, people grow. Social circle, leveled up. The best part of all of this? The B.C.S.C. Balding Chad Survivors Club, is a thing. We met up twice since the last update, and we're plotting a charity bake sale for women's shelters, burn the fedora, save a sister. My neighbor is our honorary treasurer and insists on background checks for all new plus ones. I have honestly never felt safer or more consistently amused. Personal plot lines, healing IRL, with some bonuses. After months of siege mentality, I finally went on my first Hinge date last week. Neighbor's vet, not the dog. Trainer, sorry Reddit ship nerds. It was quiet, kind, and honestly lovely. I text my mom for advice, and she didn't threaten to show up with a bat, just to send me a thumbs up if he makes you smile. Progress, self-defense course graduation complete. I celebrated by letting my instructor, yep, still a crush, use me as a demo sparring partner, which, unironically, is the healthiest male attention I've had in years. Ken Tenths, would recommend. Therapy is sticking, my boundaries are Olympic level now. I finally sleep dreamless, uninterrupted, and no longer twitch at the sound of the doorbell. TLDR of what's actually new, Chad's family is fully fractured, and their attempts to resurrect drama have gotten so desperate it's just silly now. Dan, newly sober, I hope, is sending apologies in cupcake form, but I trust his therapy group more than his motives. I finally feel safe and seen, not just by my friends, but by a bizarre, Delightful alliance of survivors, neighbors, and reformed landlords. The Balding Chad Survivors Club is matching tote bags now. Truly, we thrive. So that's the update you didn't know you needed. Legal threats, apology pastries, redemption landlords, and found family group chats that might just be the best plot twist yet. I used to wish my life was less like a TV show, but at least now it feels like I'm writing the script instead of just dodging the plot holes. Stay tuned for the charity bake sale results, and, God willing, no more memory sticks. And for those of you who keep asking, the Vindication Jams playlist now features Lizzo, Taylor Swift, and at least 4 breakup bangers in Hindi. PM for the link and cupcake recipes, minus the family drama, I promise.